Hey, Rebel Rouser. I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7. We're at episode number 1561. And, I went back through some of the cast interviews around the press junket to confirm something. And Brian Young, who is Swankmatron on Twitter and who is also part of the Full of Sith podcast, was writing for Sci Fi Wire and did confirm that it seems like we are going to cross over with The Force Awakens after all. So the whole Star Wars Resistance thing and about the fact that it's taking place 6 months before The Force Awakens when everything starts up. I've been talking on the podcast about how, it seems like that would lend itself to eventually crossing over and then getting ahead of even The Last Jedi then at that point. And so, yes, it actually is confirmed, at least via interviews with the head creatives of the show, that that's going to happen. So, I guess the big question then becomes, when? When is that going to happen? Of course, we have December of 2019 for episode 9. And so, oh gosh, so we've got the rest of this season, which, just if they play out the season, seems like it would, at the very least, it might make it all the way to the events of The Force Awakens, and then we wouldn't necessarily get past those events until the beginning of season 2. At least that would be my guesstimate for things, especially considering the way that Star Wars Rebels has worked with time jumps and so on from that point. So, it seems like a reasonable possibility. Now, there's a question that was raised by one of the patrons of the show, Bobby Gordon, who had checked in with me and asked about the other episodes. And this goes to the whole idea of, 10 p.m. for a kid's show, that seems really strange. Well, of course people watch it differently, and a couple of the episodes are actually available on the Disney Now app right now. Like episodes 3 and 4 are already available, even though they have not debuted on official television. And as far as the way I'm going to be dealing with those, I'm going to be taking the traditional old school approach, which is to say that I'm going to be reviewing them on the Mondays after the Sundays that they debut. So, in other words, our next episode is supposed to come out on Sunday the 14th, or at least premiere on Disney on Sunday the 14th, and so Monday the 15th will be when we do the official coverage of that episode, and so on and so forth. We've had a lot to unpack with the beginning of Resistance, and so that's why we've been so heavy on the coverage of it over these last couple of weeks. And once we get past the 15th, unless there's something enormously crazy revealed in that episode, and I'll be honest with you, I have not watched the episode yet, but unless there's something enormously crazy that gets revealed, chances are we will get back to a normal rate of coverage for Star Wars Resistance and be talking about all the other topics that are going on in the Star Wars universe right now. And speaking of that whole broadcast time situation and whether that's just too late for the audience, just to confirm, the audience that they do have in mind is 6 to 12 years old. That's the target audience for this show, although executive producer Athena Portillo says that she really thinks about it as 6 to 70 years old. 6 as in 6, not 60 to 70, 6 to 70 years old, and that even at her age that there are things that she still cracks up at as an adult, which, good heavens, I hope that's all of us. I hope we can all be, not jaded to the point where we can't laugh at some of the stuff that's meant for our kids anymore. Like, there have to be moments. And, it's really odd also to think about the age group. All right, wait a minute. I'll back up to that in a second. Just the age group of 6 to 12, 10 p.m. on a Sunday night. No, it's all about the app then. It has to be all about the Disney Now app for one thing, and they have to give it a kickstart someplace, but it's not going to be showing just one time on the Disney Channel during the week. And of course there's the whole TiVo DVR thing, blah blah blah. So just because it's on Sunday nights at 10 on Disney, that should not be an indicator of they're saying 6 to 12 years old, but that doesn't seem to compute. No, they've got other things in mind entirely. But what I was going to get on about real quick was the fact that it's 6 to 12 years old and we have a full-fledged bar fight in the midst of the first episodes of Star Wars Resistance. And I'm not saying this to be a prude or anything like that, because you know what? This seems to be actually, quite the opposite. I'm willing to give it like major kudos, because the fact of the matter is, Star Wars is nothing without great bar scenes, and it seems like the makers of Star Wars Resistance have figured this out because they kick things off pretty early on in the series with a bar scene that goes horribly awry and causes all sorts of chaos. So despite the fact that they're saying it's targeted at 6 to 12-year-olds, hey, they did the right thing. And in fact, tomorrow's episode, we are going to do a brief history of bar scenes in Star Wars TV shows and movies. So join me, won't you, for that. Make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast. And if you're not, then hey, just do it wherever you're getting it. Also, hey, if you are not a supporter of the podcast, then I hope you'll consider that. That's patreon.com/SW7X7. For now, though, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me as always. And may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2018, Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.